What's up, everyone, and welcome to this week's Cybersecurity Weekly, where we review the security events that happened in the last week. As always, I've broken them down in the timeline so you can jump around as you see fit. If you find my work valuable, of course, I ask you to hit the like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. We start off with phishing. A massive social engineering campaign has been delivered in the last 2 years in several countries, including Portugal, Spain, Brazil, Mexico, Chile, the UK, and France. According to Sequence Informatica publication, the malicious waves have impacted banking organizations with the goal of stealing the user's secrets, accessing the home banking portals, and also controlling all the operations on the fly via command and control servers geolocated in Brazil. In short, criminal groups are targeting victims from different countries to collect their home banking secrets and payment cards. The campaigns are carried out by using social engineering schemes, namely smishing and spear phishing through fake emails. Criminals obtain lists of valid and tested phone numbers and emails from other malicious groups, and the process is performed on underground forums, Telegram channels, or Discord chats. The spear phishing campaigns try to lure victims with fake emails that impersonate the banking institutions. The emails are extremely similar to the originals, except for their content, mainly related to debts or lack of payments. According to the analysis, the malicious campaign consists of a redirector system capable of performing an initial screening to verify that the user's requests are valid and expected. The system is equipped with a blacklisting mechanism and a logging feature that notifies criminals of new infections. When the victim matches all the rules, several pathways are possible with different landing pages. Some of them only collect raw data, including the home banking credentials, SMS tokens, and bank codes. On the other hand, a well-structured command and control server can be used to orchestrate all the processes in real time, simulating a flow extremely similar to the legitimate service. As phishing and malware campaigns make headlines every day, monitoring these types of behaviors and IOCs is crucial to fight the emerging segment, which has grown in both volume and sophistication. We now move on to patches. Cisco announced patches for multiple issues affecting its small business RV160s, RV260s, RV340s, and RV345 series routers. Some of the bugs fixed by the IT giant could lead to the execution of arbitrary code with root privileges. The most severe flaw fixed by the company is a remote code execution issue tracked as CVE-2022-20699 with a CVSS score of 10 out of 10. The root cause of the flaw are the insufficient boundary checks performed during the processing of specific HTTP requests. The company also addressed two critical issues in the web-based management interface of the small business RV routers, tracked as CVE-2022-20700 with a CVSS score also of 10, and CVE-2022-20701 with a CVSS score of 9 out of 10, respectively. An attacker could exploit the flaw to escalate privileges to root and execute arbitrary commands on the vulnerable device. Other critical issues addressed by Cisco are a command injection vulnerability and a digital signature verification bypass vulnerability, respectively, tracked as CVE-2022-20708, CVSS score of 10 out of 10, and CVE-2022-20703 with a CVSS score of 9.3 out of 10. An attacker can exploit the vulnerabilities to inject and execute arbitrary commands, cause a denial of service condition, execute arbitrary code, obtain partial administrative privileges, view or alter information shared with other devices, overwrite certain files, upload arbitrary files. Now, the company urges customers to install security updates for the impacted Cisco small business routers. It pointed out that there are no workarounds to address these issues, so patch your stuff. Trend Micro released security updates to fix two high-severity vulnerabilities tracked as CVE-2022-23119 and CVE-2022-23120, affecting some of its hybrid cloud security products. The vulnerabilities affect Deep Security and Cloud One workload security solutions. The flaws were reported by the cybersecurity firm MuddyWater, which also published POC exploits the same day Trend Micro released the security fixes on January 19th. The experts first reported the vulnerabilities to Trend Micro in September, and patches were released between October and December. The first issue is a directory traversal vulnerability that could be exploited by a local unprivileged attacker to read arbitrary files and inject and run code as root user. The flaw is caused by the lack of proper input sanitation in the TrendMicro Deep Security agent. It can be exploited only if the agent has not been activated or configured. The experts also discovered that the agent software is shipped with a default CA and a hard-coded default X.509 certificate and corresponding private key. The certificate is used to establish a communication with the server before the agent is activated. Antivirus firm ESET. So we had TrendMicro, now we have ESET. Released security patches to address a high-severity local privilege escalation vulnerability tracked as CVE-2022-21882 impacting its Windows clients. An attacker can exploit the vulnerability to misuse the AMSI scanning feature to elevate privileges in specific scenarios. According to the report submitted by the Zero Day Initiative, an attacker who is able to get personate privilege can misuse the AMSI scanning feature to elevate to NT authority/system in some cases, reads the security advisory published by the company. The personate privilege is by default available to the local administrators group and the device's local service accounts, which are already highly privileged and thus limit the impact of this vulnerability. The CVE-2021-37852 vulnerability was discovered by the security researcher Michael DePlant at Isobashi, who reported the bug to the company through the Zero Day Initiative. ZDI also published an advisory for this issue. The vulnerability impacted products including multiple versions of ESET Node 32 antivirus, Internet Security, Smart Security, and Smart Security Premium, Endpoint Antivirus and Endpoint Security for Windows, Server Security and File Security for Windows Server, Server Security for Azure, Security for SharePoint Server, and Mail Security for IBM Domino and for Exchange Server. ESET released a series of patches for this issue in December 2021, and in January released fixes for older versions of the company's products. The security firm also provides the following mitigation for this flaw. The attack surface can also be eliminated by disabling the Enable Advanced Scanning via AMSI option in ESET products. Advanced Setup continues the advisory. However, ESET strongly recommends performing an upgrade to a fixed product version and only applying this workaround when the upgrade is not possible for an important reason. The good news for the customers of the security firm is that it's not aware of existing exploits for this issue. We now move on to attacks, vulnerabilities, and updates. PayBito is a Bitcoin and cryptocurrency exchange for major cryptocurrencies including Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin, Ethereum, HCX, Litecoin, Ethereum Classic. The exchange is operated by global blockchain and IT services company Hashcash. LockBit ransomware operators claim to have stolen customers' data from the PayBito crypto exchange. The name of the company was published on the Gang's Tor leak site. LockBit ransomware operators claim to have stolen a database containing personal data belonging to more than 100,000 customers worldwide. The group also claims to have stolen email and password hashes that can be easily decrypted due to the use of a weak hash algorithm. The group also stole the admin's personal data. Stolen data will be published on February 21st, 2022 if the company will not pay the ransom. Business services company Morley was victim of a ransomware attack that may have resulted in a data breach impacting more than 500,000 individuals. Morley Companies is a United States corporation that provides business services to Fortune 500 and Global 100 clients, contact centers, and back office processing, meetings and incentives management, and exhibits and displays production. In letters sent to impacted individuals, the company said that the ransomware infection was discovered in August 2021. The investigation, conducted with the help of independent cybersecurity experts, revealed that threat actors stole the personal information of 521,046 individuals, including employees, contractors, and clients. Stolen data may include name, address, social security number, date of birth, client identification number, medical diagnostics and treatment information, and health insurance information. Morley is offering individuals whose social security numbers have been exposed 24 months of free credit and identity monitoring services via IDX. Swissport International Limited is an aviation services company providing airport, ground, and lounge hospitality and cargo handling services owned by an international group of investors. The company handles around 282 million passengers and 4.8 million tons of cargo annually on behalf of some 850 client companies in the aviation sector. With a workforce of around 66,000 personnel, Swissport is active at 307 locations in 50 countries and generates consolidated operating revenue of 2.8 billion euro. Swissport International was hit by a ransomware attack that had a severe impact on its operations, causing flights to suffer delays. According to the German website Spiegel, the ransomware attack impacted a limited part of the company's global IT infrastructure. A company spokesperson confirmed that the security breach took place on Thursday morning at 6 a.m. The company said via Twitter that the attack has been largely contained while it is working to resolve the issue as quickly as possible. This time, the company did not disclose details about the attack, such as the ransomware family that infected its systems or whether the attack led to a data breach. No ransomware groups has claimed the attack on their leaked sites. American media and publishing giant News Corp revealed it was victim of a cyber attack from an advanced persistent threat actor that took place in January. The attackers compromised one of the systems of the company and had access to emails and documents of some employees. The news of the cyber attack made the headlines following a Securities and Exchange Commission filing and was first reported by Bleeping Computer. Initial investigation into the hack revealed that the attack was carried out by a nation-state actor for cyber espionage purposes. News Corp has hired cybersecurity and incident response firm Mandiant to assist with the investigation. Mandiant researchers speculate the attack was conducted by a China-linked app group. Retail giant Target announced the release of its open-source tool, or its internal tool, dubbed Merrymaker, designed to detect e-skimming attacks. Merrymaker is a tool designed by Target security developers Eric Brandl and Caleb Walsh at eBrandl and at Kowalch to detect the presence of a e-skimmer on an e-store. The name comes from the tool's ability to help keep the holiday shopping season and all shopping occasions safer and merrier. The tool scans payment page code for malicious pieces of software and analyzes saved network traffic for any potential compromise. Merrymaker also works by preserving a baseline of existing pages by saving the code being served by a website along with the network traffic generated by test transactions. Target is actively using Merrymaker since 2018. The tool has completed over 1 million website scans. Target has open-sourced the Merrymaker framework along with several detection rules that could be used by cybersecurity teams to set up and customize their defense. Palo Alto Networks Unit 42 reported that the Russia-linked Gamaredon APT group attempted to compromise an unnamed Western government entity operating in Ukraine in January, while geopolitical tensions between Russia and Ukraine have escalated dramatically. In mid-January, the Ukrainian government was hit with a destructive malware tracked as Whispergate, and several Ukrainian government websites were defaced by exploiting a separate vulnerability in October CMS. Palo Alto Network experts mapped out 3 large clusters of infrastructure used by the nation-state app group used to support different phishing and malware campaigns. These clusters linked to over 700 malicious domains, 215 IP addresses, and over 100 samples of malware. Unlike most threat actors that discard domains after their use in a cyber attack, Gamaredon recycles their domains by consistently rotating them across new infrastructure. The phishing attack leveraged a job search and employment platform in Ukraine where attackers uploaded their malware downloader in the form of a resume for an active job listing related to the targeted organization. The investigation into the activity of the Gamaredon app revealed also that the cyber spies carried out a campaign against the State Migration Service of Ukraine in early December. The state-sponsored hackers used weaponized Word documents called Report on the LCA for June 2021, autosave.doc, as a lure to deliver the open-source Ultra VNC virtual network computing software for maintaining remote access to infected computers. One of the clusters, analyzed by the experts, was used as a command and control infrastructure for a custom remote administrative tool called Pteranodon backdoor. This backdoor was continuously updated for years, with threat actors focusing the development on anti-detection functions. The malware allows the attackers to download and execute files, capture screenshots, and execute arbitrary commands on compromised systems. Over the last 3 months, Palo Alto researchers have identified 33 samples of Pteranodon. In November, Ukraine's premier law enforcement and counterintelligence disclosed the real identities of 5 alleged members of the Russian-linked app group Gamaredon, aka Primitive Bear, Armageddon, Winter Flounder, or Iron Tilden, that are suspected to be components of the Russian Federal Security Service, or FSB. According to the Security Service of Ukraine, the SSU, cybersecurity department, the group carried out over 5,000 cyber attacks against public authorities and critical infrastructure of Ukraine. The 5 individuals are Sklyanko Oleksandr Mykolaiovich, Chemik Mykola Seryovich, Starchenko Anton Alexandrovich, Miroshnichenko Alexander Valerievich, and Sushenko Oleh Alexandrovich. Ukrainian authorities reveal that the individuals are officers of the Crimean FSB. For this reason, they are considered traitors who defected to the enemy during the occupation of Crimea in 2014. The Gamaredon group was first discovered by Symantec and Trendmicro in 2015, but evidence of its activities has been dated back to 2013. The group targeted government and military organizations in the Ukraine, and in December 2019, the app group targeted several Ukrainian diplomats, government and military officials, and law enforcement. An alleged Chinese threat actor tracked as temp_heretic is actively attempting to exploit a zero-day cross-site scripting vulnerability in the Zimbra open-source email platform. The zero-day vulnerability impacts almost any Zimbra install running version 8.8.15. Researchers from cybersecurity company Volexity uncovered a cyber espionage spear phishing campaign tracked as Email Thief that has been active since at least December 2021. The successful exploitation of the cross-site scripting vulnerability could allow threat actors to execute arbitrary JavaScript code in the context of the user's Zimbra session. In order to exploit the vulnerability, the attackers have to trick the target into clicking the attacker's specially crafted link while logged into the Zimbra webmail client from a web browser. Experts noticed that the campaigns are carried out across two attack phases, one aimed at reconnaissance and one aimed at spreading the malicious links. Temp_heretic attempted to steal emails and attachments from targeted organizations. The exploitation of the zero-day cross-site scripting issue could allow attackers to exfiltrate cookies, to allow persistent access to a mailbox, send further phishing messages to a user's contacts, and deliver malware. The attribution to a threat actor with a Chinese origin is based on the following clues. Most of the emails were sent between 4 and 8:30 am UTC, fitting hours of a working day of UTC plus 8 hours. Emails were sent with headers indicating they were sent from a 0.8 UTC time zone. The hard-coded headers used in the Zimbra requests generated by the attacker's JavaScript code contain a time zone set to Asia, Hong Kong. Microsoft revealed that Office 365 and Azure Active Directory customers were the target of billions of phishing emails and brute force attacks last year. The IT giant added that they blocked more than 25.6 billion Azure Active Directory brute force authentication attacks and detected 35.7 billion phishing emails with Microsoft Defender for Office 365 in 2021. Enabling multi-factor authentication and passwordless authentication would allow customers to protect their accounts from brute force attacks. However, only 22% of customers using Microsoft Azure Active Directory, Microsoft's cloud identity solution, have implemented a strong identity authentication protection as of December 2021. Targeting enterprise and consumer customer devices between January and December 2021. Microsoft pointed out that online threats are increasing in volume, velocity, and level of sophistication. The company introduced Cyber Signals, a cyber threat intelligence brief informed by the latest Microsoft threat data and research. Cyber Signals provide trend analysis and practical guidance to strengthen the defense of its customers. A China-linked app group tracked as Antlion is using a custom backdoor called XPack in attacks aimed at financial organizations and manufacturing companies, Symantec researchers have reported. The backdoor was undetected for at least 18 months in a cyber espionage campaign against entities in Taiwan between 2020 and 2021. XPack allowed threat actors to run WMI commands remotely and mount shares over SMB to transfer data from command and control servers to them. The malware was also used by the attackers to browse the web, likely using it as a proxy to mask their IP address. Symantec researchers analyzed one of the attacks carried out by the app group that remained in the compromised network of a manufacturing organization for 175 days. In another attack against a financial organization, the app group spent 250 days in the target's network. At this time, it is not clear the initial infection vector. The researchers speculate attackers exploited a web application or service because they noticed in one attack that threat actors were utilizing the MS SQL service to execute system commands. The XPack backdoor is a .NET loader that fetches and executes AES encrypted payloads. It supports multiple commands. The decryption password is provided as a command line argument, base64 encoded string, and the XPack backdoor can run as a standalone application or as a service or XPack service variant. Symantec researchers spotted the following custom tools used by Antlion in this campaign. EHIGBSPL loader, which is loaded by JPG Run Loader. JPG Run Loader, which is similar to XPack, reads the decryption key and file name from the command line, decodes files, and executes it. Check ID, based on loader used by Black Hole Rat. Net Session Enum, which is a custom SMB session enumeration tool. Encode MMC, which is a custom bind/reverse file transfer tool. And Kerbal's Golden Ticket tool, based on the Mimikatz credentials stealer. The apt gang also used several off-the-shelf and living off the land tools like e.g. PowerShell, WMIC, ProcDump, LSAS, and PSX. Experts also noticed that attackers were exploiting CVE-2022-21882 for privilege escalation and remote scheduled tasks to execute their backdoor. Attackers also used legitimate versions of WinRAR for data exfiltration and batch scripts to automate the data collection process. In some cases, threat actors staged stolen data for further exfiltration. Some of the major oil terminals in Western Europe's biggest ports have been targeted with a cyber attack. Threat actors have hit multiple oil facilities in Belgium's ports, including Antwerp, which is the second biggest port in Europe after Rotterdam. Among the impacted port infrastructure, there is the Amsterdam-Rotterdam-Antwerp oil trading hub, along with the sea tank terminal in Antwerp. The AFP agency reported that the attackers have disrupted the unloading of barges in the affected European ports. There was a cyber attack at various terminals. Quite some terminals are disrupted, said Jelle Freeman, senior broker at River Lake in Rotterdam. Their software is being hijacked and they can't process barges. Basically, the operational system is down. The attacks were also confirmed by Europol, which is supporting the authorities in Germany, where other ports were hit by the threat actors. This week, 2 oil supply companies in Germany were also hit by the cyber attacks that caused severe problems to petrol distribution. Wormhole, one of the most popular bridges that links the Ethereum and Solana blockchains, lost about $325 million in an attack that took place on Wednesday. This is the second biggest hack of a DeFi platform ever, just after the $600 million Poly network security breach. Experts pointed out that this is the largest attack to date on Solana, which is a high-performance blockchain like Ethereum, and that is increasing its popularity thanks to the interest in the non-fungible token, or NFT, and decentralized finance, or DeFi, ecosystems. Wormhole is a communication bridge between Solana and other top decentralized finance networks and allows the transfer of cryptocurrency across different blockchains, including Avalanche, Oasis, Binance Smart Chain, Ethereum, Polygon, Solana, and Terra. The Wormhole development team confirmed the hack and took down its platform for maintenance while investigating the crypto heist. The website of the Wormhole protocol is currently offline. The attackers exploited a flaw in the protocol to steal 120,000 wrapped Ether tokens on the Solana blockchain when they converted 93,752 Ethereum to sell it. Or then they converted. The exploit appears to have allowed the attacker to mint 120,000 wrapped Ethereum on the Solana blockchain, 93,750 Ethereum, which was then transferred to the Ethereum blockchain, reported the blockchain analysis firm Elliptic. Every time a user wants to transfer funds among blockchain, the token is wrapped in a smart contract before being transferred to the destination blockchain. An analysis from blockchain cybersecurity firm Certic shows that the attackers' profits thus far are at least $251 million worth of Ethereum, nearly $47 million of Solana, and more than $4 million in US dollars, a stablecoin USDC, a stablecoin pegged to the price of the US dollar. Elliptic revealed that Wormhole has offered the attackers a $10 million reward if they return the funds. So $10 million to return $251 million. Let's see how that works out. Elliptic experts added that the analysis of these transactions has determined that the exploit resulted from Wormhole's failure to validate Guardian accounts. Security researcher Kirtikumar Anandroa Ramchandani discovered an information disclosure vulnerability in the Brave browser and reported it to the company through the HackerOne platform. The researcher discovered that when the browser is used with Tor, it could leak the refer. Brave browser has a function of new private window with Tor. The browser, when used with Tor, shouldn't leak the refer, reads the report submitted to HackerOne. The cyber threat team at retail giant Walmart has analyzed a new ransomware family dubbed Sugar, which is offered through a ransomware as a service model. Unlike other ransomware operations, Sugar ransomware appears to primarily focus on individual computers instead of entire enterprises. The Sugar malware was first discovered in the wild in November 2021. It is a Delphi malware that borrows code from other ransomware families. One of the most interesting components of the new malware family is the cryptor that uses a modified version of RC4 algorithm and the reuse of the same routine from the cryptor as part of the string decoding in the malware. This suggests that the Sugar ransomware and its cryptor were developed by the same team. Another scenario sees the cryptor that is being offered by a threat actor to a network of affiliates. The experts also noticed that some similarities between the ransomware of Sugar and the R-Evil. While the decryptor page is similar to the one used by CLOP operators, other similarities were found by the experts in the GP library used for encryption and decryption operations. The CyberReason Noctumus team observed a spike in the activity of the Iran-linked app group App35, aka Charming Kitten, Phosphorus, Newcaster, and Alex security team. The Phosphorus group made the headlines in 2014 when experts at ESET issued a report describing the most elaborate net-based spying campaign organized by Iranian hackers using social media. Microsoft has been tracking the threat actors since at least 2013, but experts believe that the cyber espionage group has been active since at least 2011. The app group previously targeted medical research organizations in the US and Israel in late 2020 and for targeting academics from the US, France, and the Middle East region in 2019. They've also previously targeted human rights activists, the media sector, and interfered with the U.S. presidential elections. The App35 group is now deploying a new PowerShell backdoor called Powerless Backdoor, using a stealthy technique to avoid detection. The group is running the PowerShell backdoor in a .NET context rather than spawning the PowerShell process. The capabilities supported by the Powerless Backdoor include downloading and executing additional malware and files, additional modules, browsers, InfoStealer, keylogger module, encrypted channel with the command and control server, executing arbitrary commands, killing processes, stealing browser data, keylogging. Experts noticed a lot of typos and grammatical mistakes in the code of the backdoor, a circumstance that suggests that the native language of the backdoor's authors is likely not English. The toolset analyzed by CyberReason includes modular, multi-stage malware used to deploy additional payloads. The attackers also used previously undetected malware, including InfoStealers and keyloggers. In mid-January, the Iran-linked App35 group has been observed leveraging the Log4 shell flaw to drop a new PowerShell backdoor tracked as Charm Power. CyberReason also found evidence that links the app group to Memento ransomware operators that first appeared in the threat landscape in 2021. The gang was observed exploiting the CVE-2022-21882 vulnerability in VMware vCenter's server for the initial access to target networks. Researchers at firmware security company Binarly have discovered 23 vulnerabilities in UEFI firmware code used by the major device makers. The vulnerabilities could impact millions of enterprise devices, including laptops, servers, routers, and industrial control systems. All these vulnerabilities affect several vendors, including Fujitsu, Siemens, Dell, HP, HPE, Lenovo, Microsoft, Intel, and Bull Atos. The flaws reside in the Inside H2O UEFI firmware provided by Inside Software and used by the impacted vendors. The analysis of the disassembly code revealed that the majority of these flaws were exploitable vulnerabilities in the system management mode. Most of the vulnerabilities could lead to code execution with SMM privileges. An attacker can chain these issues to bypass security features or establish persistence. An attacker with privileged user access to the targeted system can exploit the vulnerabilities to implant persistent malware. The research pointed out that the active exploitation of all the above issues cannot be detected by firmware integrity monitoring systems due to the limitations of the Trusted Platform Module measurement. Binarily worked with CertCC and the Linux Vendor Firmware Service, or LVFS, to notify Fujitsu and other impacted vendors. Despite Inside having addressed the vulnerabilities, it'll likely take some time before the security patches will be installed in the firmware of the impacted vendors. The British Council is a British organization specializing in international cultural and educational opportunities. It operates in over 100 countries, promoting a wider knowledge of the United Kingdom and the English language, encouraging cultural, scientific, technological, and educational cooperation with the United Kingdom. In early December 2021, the popular MacKeeper cybersecurity researcher Bob Dyachenko discovered an open, unsecured Microsoft Azure blob repository containing over 144,000 files, XML, JSON, and XLS or XLSX. The analysis of the file revealed that they were containing the personal information and login credentials of British Council students. Exposed data included names, IDs, usernames, and email addresses, enrollment dates, duration of study, and notes. At this time, it is unclear for how long the data remained exposed online without protection. A cyber attack hit Oiltanker GmbH, a German petrol distributor, which we talked about in an earlier story about the attack on European ports, who supplies Shell gas stations in the country, severely impacting its operations. According to the media, the attack also impacted the oil supplier Mabanaft GmbH. The two companies belong to the Marquard and Balls Group. The company supplies tens of companies in Germany with fuel. Clients like Shell operate thousands of gas stations in the country. Local media reported that the attacks could have had an impact on the fuel supply in the country. The petrol distribution is a critical infrastructure of the country, and an incident like this one could have a severe impact on the operations of the country. Experts believe that Oiltanking GmbH will spend a lot of time to fully recover the IT systems from the attack. This time, it's not clear the nature of the attack and the motivation behind it. Researchers from Cisco Talos have uncovered a cyber espionage campaign carried out by the Iran-linked MuddyWater app group, aka Seedworm and Temp Zagros, and targeting private Turkish organizations and governmental institutions. The first MuddyWater campaign was observed in late 2017 when targeting entities in the Middle East. The experts called the campaign Muddy Water due to the confusion in attributing a wave of attacks that took place between February and October 2017, targeting entities in Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Israel, United Arab Emirates, Georgia, India, Pakistan, Turkey, and the United States to date. Although I wouldn't say the United States is in the Middle East, but whatever. The group evolved over the years by adding new attack techniques to its arsenal. Across the years, the APT group also has targeted European and North American nations. The group's victims are mainly in the telecommunications, government, IT services, and oil sectors. In January, U.S. Cyber Command, U.S. Cybercom, officially linked the MuddyWater app group to Iran's Ministry of Intelligence and Security, MOIS. The malware campaign operated by MuddyWater targeting Turkey leverages malicious PDFs and Microsoft Office documents as the initial infection vector. The bait documents are masquerade as legitimate documents from the Turkish Health and Interior Ministries. Upon opening the documents, a malicious PowerShell-based downloader acts as initial footholds into the target's network. The PowerShell script downloads and executes the second stage PowerShell script that resides in the metadata of the weaponized document, which in turn downloads a third unidentified PowerShell command or code that's ultimately run on the infected endpoint. The campaign has been active since at least November 2021. The list of targeted Turkish government entities includes the Scientific and Technological Research Council of Turkey. The researchers attribute the attacks to the MuddyWater app group based on the observed TTPs and significant overlap of its command and control infrastructure with the one used for recent attacks against Turkey. Turkish authorities identified some of the command and control IP addresses that were used in previous attacks associated with the app group. The researchers discovered at least two different versions of the executable that were used in attacks targeting the telecommunications sector in America in June of 2021 and Pakistan in August 2021. Essential Addons for Elementor is a popular WordPress plugin used in over 1 million sites that provides easy-to-use and creative elements to improve the appearance of the pages. The plugin is affected by a critical remote code execution vulnerability that impacts version 5.0.4 and older. An unauthenticated user can exploit the vulnerability. I'll say it again. An unauthenticated user can exploit the vulnerability to perform a local file inclusion attack, such as a PHP file, to remotely gain code execution on sites running a vulnerable version of the plugin. The vulnerability was discovered by Tate. The flaw can be exploited only if websites have the dynamic gallery and product gallery widgets enabled so that a non-token check is present. Initially, the development team attempted to fix the flaw by implementing a sanitized text field function on the user input data. However, experts discovered that it was still possible that the inclusion of the local payloads. Then a second patch was applied to version 5.0.4. The new patch invokes the WordPress sanitized file name function. The function removes special characters that are not admitted in file names, such as dots and slashes, in order to prevent local file inclusion attacks. Unfortunately, this version was still vulnerable and requested an additional review. Samba has addressed a critical vulnerability tracked to CVE-2022-21882 that can be exploited by remote attackers to gain code execution with root privileges on servers running vulnerable software. Samba is a free software re-implementation of the SMB networking protocol that provides file and print services for various Microsoft Windows clients and can integrate with the Microsoft Windows Server domain either as a domain controller or as a domain member. Samba runs on most Unix-like systems such as Linux, Solaris, AIX, and BSD variants, including Apple's macOS Server and macOS Client and greater, for version 10.2 and greater. The CVE-2022-21882 vulnerability is an out-of-bounds heap read-write that impacts the fruit VFS module when parsing EA metadata when opening files in SMBD. This VFS module is part of the Samba suite and provides enhanced compatibility with Apple SMB clients and interoperability with a Netatalk 3AFP file server. The flaw affects all versions of Samba prior to 4.13.17. An attacker can trigger this vulnerability without user interaction. The vulnerability was reported by the security researcher Orang Tsai from DevCore. Administrators can address the flaw by installing the 4.13.17, 4.14.12, and 4.15.5 releases or applying the security patches released by Samba. Samba also provides a workaround that consists of removing fruit from VFS objects lines in the Samba configuration files. The U.S. CERT Coordinated Center, or CERT/CC, published a list of vendors impacted by the CVE-2021-44142 bug, so if you don't know if your vendor is affected, I highly recommend you go over there and check it out. The DeFi platform Qubit Finance was victim of a cyber heist. Threat actors stole around $80 million in cryptocurrency last week. The hack took place at around 5 p.m. Eastern Time on the evening of January 27th. The attackers have exploited a flaw in the smart contract code used in an Ethereum bridge. Qubit provides bridging services allowing its customers or its users to transfer funds to different blockchains. This means that the deposits made in one cryptocurrency can be withdrawn in another. Qubit Finance operates a bridge between Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain Network. The Qubit protocol was subject to an exploit to our QBridge deposit function, reads the incident report published by the company. Researchers from blockchain security firm Certic speculate that the attackers were able to exploit a security flaw in Qubit's smart contract code that allowed them to invoke the deposit function with malicious input data, yet actually they only deposited 0 Ethereum, but they were able to withdraw almost 80 million in Binance Coin in return. Certic analysts highlight the importance bridge services have that allow the investors to move funds among different blockchains in terms of security. The record reported that attacker's address was identified, and threat actors have yet to launder the stolen funds. Qubit Finance published a tweet to invite the threat actors to negotiate the team. I think they offered them something like $250,000 to return the money. Researchers from Proofpoint have uncovered a new campaign named Oivavoy that is targeting company executives, former board members, presidents, and managers with bogus OAuth apps and cleverly crafted lures sent from compromised Office 365 accounts. Microsoft has blocked many of the apps, but according to the researchers, the campaign is still ongoing. Once the attackers have compromised the executive accounts, they can carry out a broad range of malicious activities, from insider phishing to human-operated ransomware attacks. The researchers uncovered 5 malicious OAuth applications employed in this campaign, some of them created by a verified organization, Yuma Counseling Services. Named the apps named, upgrade, document, shared, and user info. Those are the names of the actual apps. At least 3 of these rogue third-party apps were created by 2 different verified publishers, a circumstance that suggests the attackers have compromised admin user accounts within a legitimate Office tenant. The threat actors used the apps to send out authorization requests to the victims, and upon accepting them, threat actors could use the token to send emails from their accounts to other employees within the same organization. In order to prevent victims from canceling the request by clicking cancel, attackers manipulate the reply URL to redirect back to the consent screen automatically. Apps potentially use MITM proxy attacks. This means that credential theft could take place as part of the attack flow, greatly increasing the risk of a complete account takeover and prolonged persistence. Experts pointed out that all the detected apps requested similar permissions, mainly related to mailbox access, read and write. Microsoft has shared details of a large-scale phishing campaign that leverages stolen credentials to register devices on a target's network to extend the attack to other enterprises. The attack exploits the concept of bring your own device by registering a device using freshly stolen credentials. The second stage of the campaign, observed by Microsoft, was successful against victims that did not implement multi-factor authentication. In this scenario, threat actors were able to register their own rogue devices into the victim's network. The first phase of the campaign involved stealing credentials in target organizations, most of them located in Australia, Singapore, Indonesia, and Thailand. In the second phase, these credentials were used to expand the attacker's foothold within the organization via lateral phishing as well as beyond the network via outbound spam. The attack chain started with a DocuSign branded phishing lure containing a link. Upon clicking on the link, the recipient is redirected to a rogue website masquerading as the login page for Office 365 to steal the credentials. The campaign employed a set of phishing domains registered under .xyz top-level domain below the regular expression syntax shared by Microsoft. URL domain matches the regex of blah blah blah. The researchers pointed out that a phishing link was uniquely generated for each email, with the victim's email address encoded in the query parameter of the URL. Microsoft reported that attackers compromised over 100 mailboxes in multiple organizations. They were also able to implement an inbox rule to prevent detection. In the second phase, threat actors exploited the lack of MFA or multi-factor authentication to join a device to its Azure Active Directory instance. Microsoft provides recommendations to defend against multi-stage phishing campaigns, such as enabling multi-factor authentication, adopting good credential hygiene, and implementing network segmentation. We now move on to other security news. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI, has issued a flash alert containing technical details and indicators of compromise associated with LockBit ransomware operations. The LockBit ransomware gang has been active since at least September 2019. In June 2021, the group announced the LockBit 2.0 ransomware service. Like other ransomware gangs, LockBit 2.0 determines the system and user language settings and only targets those not matching a set list of languages that are Eastern European. After ransomware ads were banned on hacking forums, the LockBit operators set up their own leak site promoting the latest variant and advertising the LockBit 2.0 affiliate program. The group is very active in this period. The list of victims is very long and includes Riviana, Accenture, Wormington and Bollinger, an Asia Group, Bangkok Airways, Italian Energy Company, ERG, Vlastuin Group, EMIT Aviation Consulting, SCIS Air Security, Peabody Properties, DataSpeed SRL, Island Independent Buying Group, Ministry of Justice of France, Day Lewis, Buffington Law Firm, and tens of other companies worldwide. Ransomware operators have continuously improved the ransomware across the years by implementing new features such as the support for Linux and VMware ESXi systems and the capability to abuse group policies to encrypt Windows domains. The flash alert details a hidden debug status window which can be activated by pressing Shift F1 during the initial infection and provides real-time information on the process status of user data destruction and encryption. The FBI recommends victims avoid paying ransoms. The FBI is seeking any information about LockBit operations that can be shared, including boundary logs showing communication to and from foreign IP addresses, a sample ransom note, communications with the threat actors, Bitcoin wallet information, the decryptor file, and or a benign sample of an encrypted file. The FBI flash alert also includes mitigations to prevent LockBit ransomware infections. Require all accounts with password logins, like service accounts, admin accounts, and domain admin accounts, to have strong, unique passwords. Require multi-factor authentication for all services to the extent possible. Keep all operating systems and software up to date. Remove unnecessary access to administrative shares. Use a host-based firewall to only allow connections to administrative shares via server message blocker SMB from a limited set of administrative machines. Enable protected files in the Windows operating system to prevent unauthorized changes to critical files. To limit an adversary from learning the organization's enterprise environment, limit common system and network discovery techniques by taking the following actions. You want to segment your networks to prevent the spread of ransomware. You want to identify, detect, and investigate abnormal activity and potential traversal of the indicated ransomware with a networking monitoring tool. You want to implement time-based access for accounts set at the admin level and higher. You want to disable command line and scripting activities and permissions. You want to maintain offline backups of data and regularly maintain backups and restorations. You want to ensure all backup data is encrypted, immutable, and covers the entire organization's data infrastructure. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency has ordered federal agencies to address their systems against an actively exploited Windows vulnerability tracked to CVE-2022-21882. At the end of January, the security researchers RaaS have publicly released an exploit for a Windows local privilege elevation flaw, the CVE-2022-21882, that allows anyone to gain admin privileges in Windows 10. The Win32k elevation of privilege vulnerability was fixed in January as part of the January 2022 Patch Tuesday. It is the result of a bypass for the previously CVE 2021-1732 flaw. RaaS also published a detailed analysis of the vulnerability that affects all supported support versions of Windows 10. Using this vulnerability, threat actors with limited access to a compromised device can easily elevate their privileges to help spread laterally within the network, create new administrative users, or perform privileged commands. CISA is ordering, in compliance with the Binding Operational Directive, BOD 2022-01, Federal Civilian Executive Branch Agencies, or FCEBs, to patch all systems against the CVE-2022-21882 flaw within 2 weeks, meaning up until February 18th. As usual, the U.S. agency recommends private and public sector organizations to address the vulnerabilities, including the Known Exploited Vulnerabilities Catalog, which is a list of known vulnerabilities that threat actors have abused in attacks and that are required to be addressed by federal civilian executive branch. With that, I say thanks again for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe if you haven't already, and smash the bell if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the next episode. Take care.